Hello, you are listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 best-selling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, definitely sign up for my newsletter so you can learn even more about how you can heal yourself naturally. Now, our guest today is Lori Finlay. Lori Finlay is a nurse practitioner, a clinical nurse specialist, a coach, a consultant, and a speaker. And you can find out more about Lori Finlay and her wonderful work at her website, lorifinlay.com. Welcome, Lori Finlay.
Thank you. It's so great to be here. Thank you so much, Catherine. It's great to be here with your guests and your audience.
Now, Lori Finlay, you have very generously prepared a free PDF for our audience. So will you share with everybody about your PDF? And then also you have a webinar that people need to know about.
Yes. Our focus today, since it is October, I realize that people could be listening to this for quite some time. But here in the United States, we really focus on breast cancer awareness. My focus is on breast health awareness. And I want women to understand that they have way more power than they are aware of, that the Pink Campaign or Western medicine is not sharing. And your listeners are the kind of listeners that are more in tune and want to know, how can they, heal their breasts? So the little PDF is a simple little document that they can download for free. They can go to my website, lorifinlay.com / breast-health-info and get the little PDF that'll give you 4 simple tips to improve your hormone health and your hormone metabolism, which has a direct link to breast health, a significant link to breast health. You can also, almost at the same link, lorifinlay.com / breast-health, get information about my upcoming webinar all about breast health awareness. It'll be a 45-minute free webinar on October 25th. So thank you.
All right. And if you're listening past this, which many of our folks listen all over the world for years to come, you can just listen to this again and Lori's wonderful information. So Lori Finlay, what is the current rate of breast cancer in the US, Britain, and the world?
It's staggering. It's actually staggering. It is still about 1 in 3, right? 1 in 3 women, some will say, well, 1 in 8. I mean, it's really staggering, the numbers that we see. And women are unaware. Women are, they're dying of heart disease more, but women are much more afraid of breast cancer, and thus the attention we're paying today. But it is still, it's the #1 cancer that women are dealing with all over the world. And it's getting worse. I mean, right now, they predict that breast cancer rates will increase by 57% in the next 20 years. And in fact, this is staggering. And you can actually find this online. If you go to, if you go online, you can search and find this reference. It's listed on the, I just lost the website, but the bottom line, there's data out there that shows that breast cancer rates increased by 300% last year alone in the US military. For women, young women in the military, raised by 300%. And as they evaluated all of this, they actually said that it was due to the vaccine because of the impact on the immune system, what the vaccine did to the immune system. So, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, the prediction was a 57% increase in the next 20 years. My concern is that it's going to be much worse unless we take some real aggressive actions to improve our health and our immune systems and what we're doing.
So in this broadcast, we're talking about what women can do to keep their breasts healthy, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay, and just like here on the Natural Healing Show, we talk about what can I do to be a healthier person. So Western medicine fights breast cancer with surgery, radiation, and chemotherapy. Why do you think the rates of breast cancer are rising?
Well, breast cancer is rising. I just mentioned, with the impact of uh, our hit to our immune system, but we're exposed to toxins everywhere all day, between the toxins called EMF, right? 5G, and all of the technology we're exposed to the toxins in the air that we breathe, the toxins in the water we drink, in our personal care products, pesticides, herbicides, the plastics that surround our food or that's in our food, dyes, and all kinds of things like this, even prescription drugs. All of these things can have a profound impact on our hormones and our hormone metabolism. And they come in the form of fake estrogens. They call them xenoestrogens, and xeno means foreign. Other names for these bad estrogens are endocrine disruptors or obesogens. Like, they literally do make you obese, which will have a huge impact on your hormones. And fat attracts more toxic estrogens. It's a vicious loop between the two. So hormone disruptors, xenoestrogens, fake estrogens, hormone mimickers, all of these names that we're exposed to every day. And if we're not cleansing on a regular basis, people might do a cleanse every 6 months, but if we're not cleansing honestly on a daily basis, then we may be harboring and not eliminating these toxic estrogens as we should be. And I want to share one thing right there. There's a lot of misconceptions for women from the media, from their physicians, about estrogen, and that estrogen is all bad. God gave us estrogen. Children and men and women, we all have estrogen. It's important to have estrogen. In fact, I just wrote a blog post about this because of this misconception. And it all really started with the Women's Health Initiative that came out 20 years ago. It was a bad study design and bad data, and they were using synthetic, fake estrogens, whereas healthy, bioidentical, natural estrogens are important for us, for our breast health and for our heart health. So really want listeners to understand the difference between the toxic estrogens and the healthy estrogen. When our healthy estrogens plummet, right, is when we start to see an increase in breast cancer. So and the significant imbalance between the toxic estrogens and progesterone. So it is important for us to keep our hormones healthy and balanced. And that's one of the most important messages I have for women, that maintaining healthy hormone support will protect us and help us have healthy breasts.
Years ago, I had a client, a friend who was an author and naturopath who wrote about women in menopause. And he said, whether you take estrogen or make your own, you must eliminate estrogen every single day.
Exactly. You must eliminate it every single day. And I think we know the same wonderful mentor. Anyway, with that said, right, one of the challenges, we're being bombarded by the toxins and we're not eliminating them faster. And one of the most important detoxifiers in the entire human body is glutathione. And it drops by 10% every single decade. It is the longevity molecule. It is the master detoxifier, master immune booster, master antioxidant, and master anti-inflammatory. And it drops 10% a decade. And there are things that we are doing that might drop it even faster. Like, alcohol will plummet your glutathione. Alcohol, to metabolize alcohol, you have to use up your glutathione stores. So if you're having a lot of alcohol and enjoying your glass of wine every night, that glutathione store or that glutathione molecule that could have been detoxing those foreign estrogens is now being used up by the alcohol. So that might be something for listeners to, think about, like, so what is this glass of wine doing to my breast health, right? They don't know that there's a significant link there. But there are things that we can do naturally to raise our glutathione with our diet. I recommend a supplement that I've been taking for 20 years, and it's on my 17, 18 years. It's on my website. It's the only one that is what they call endogenous, that you can take a supplement and your body actually makes the glutathione and raises it 300%.
And
So that
what
helps.
is the name of that supplement for our audience?
The product is called Cellgevity. It's the #1 product in my shop if they go to lorifinlay.com/shop. With that said, right, having lots of cruciferous vegetables will really help, making sure that they're, al dente. Don't cook them too much because it'll destroy the really helpful properties. Having broccoli sprouts, doing an infrared sauna, jumping on a trampoline to improve your lymph flow and, doing a dry brush scrub. Those kind of things can help detoxify. But if you're not having a bowel movement every day or 2 or 3 a day, then those toxic estrogens can't metabolize, or you'll start the metabolizing, right? But you won't clear them all the way through your bowel movements. And now all those toxic estrogens are going to recycle and recirculate. So there's all kinds of things that we can do naturally to improve our detoxification that will make a big difference. So that's one way.
So Lori Finlay, in my recent reading about cancer, the scientists are now discovering that obesity is actually the #1 risk factor for cancer. And as we know, that the rates of obesity have been rising in all Western cultures. How does obesity increase your chances of breast cancer?
That's a great question, and a direct link to what we're talking here about these xenoestrogens, because the fat attracts all of these estrogens, right? Like it's like a magnet. It's a vicious cycle. You get the fat attracts the xenoestrogens and the hormones, and and it makes it harder to release them as well. And so that's one of the biggest challenges is these extra estrogens with obesity.
Yeah. And I really appreciate and resonate with messages about body acceptance and that people of all sizes can be beautiful. But the truth is that if you are obese, then you are at the risk, you're at higher risk for all kinds of diseases, including heart disease and including breast cancer and including all kinds of cancer. And that's
Right.
fact.
Right.
So,
what's fascinating is, and I want to clarify this for people, like we do have choice. We don't have to be victims. And cancer is really only caused or only has a genetic link to 5% of cancer. 5 to 10% of cancers are caused by a gene. And then there's the confusion. Years ago, when Angelina Jolie here in the United States, the big actress, had her bilateral mastectomy because she had the BRCA gene, right? Women all of a sudden were now aware of the BRCA gene. I have a friend that just passed away, and she's, and she said, well, I had the BRCA gene. It's like, wait. The BRCA gene actually stands for breast cancer receptor, right? It's designed to fight off breast cancer and recognize that there's a breast cancer developing and to fight it. So when you have the quote BRCA gene, it means that you've got a snip, like snipping scissors. It means that enzyme and that gene isn't working at 100% capacity. It's working only at 60% or 30%. So you could have some genetic hiccups, some wiring that's not working correctly, but women don't know that from an epigenetic standpoint, that we can be shutting down our BRCA gene every day by these toxins that we're allowing into our body and into our environment. So epigenetics actually means that we have control over the expression of our DNA by what we are exposing ourselves to, from, again, the air we breathe, even our thoughts, by the way, the air we breathe, the water we drink, the personal care products, the dry cleaning solvents, all around us are these toxins. And if we're not careful, they can actually shut down the BRCA gene. So it's not an excuse. We can do things to optimize our genetic function and our genetic expression by the things that I'm including on my little PDF and in my webinar.
So Lori Finlay, what exactly is the BRCA gene? We want to back up and help our audience understand what it is that you're talking about.
Right. So again, the gene is designed to help fight to recognize and fight breast cancer, right? And when it diminishes, that's when it's not working as effectively as it should at, 60% or 30% capacity. So, someone might have that genetic snip right from the get-go. But again, we in the public, I love what Dr. Ben Lynch is an author here in the United States. He's a naturopath, and he wrote the book called Dirty Genes. And I love his approach. He's like, look, we can have dirty genes, like we can be born with one of these hiccups or a snip, right? And we can do things to improve it or to clean it up. Like I have some challenges or hiccups genetically in the glutathione process, in the whole glutathione pathway. So I intentionally have supplemented for years with this glutathione support called Celgevity. Now, again, everyone is aging and their glutathione is going to drop, but I've been doing this for years, which has dramatically changed my life, right? You can have completely great genes or clean genes and make them dirty if you're having alcohol and smoking and exposing yourself to all these toxins. That will eliminate your glutathione storage. If you're sleep deprived, if you're exercising too much, all of those things can reduce your glutathione, which will actually help metabolize those xenoestrogens, those toxic estrogens. And nowadays, those are things that we can track. We can see, and this is why I'm so passionate about this. Yeah. For years, they've just been saying to women, well, do a breast self-exam or go get a mammogram. Well, that is after a lump is developed. Now we've got thermography, right? And thermography, you can actually see if there's blood flow that is, if there's blood supply that is beginning to develop, which would be an indication that there's something growing that shouldn't be. But now we've got tests that can show us way before a thermogram that you've got something going on. It's like literally at the root cause. Upstream. Okay.
Lori Finlay, let's take a break and listen to a message from our commercial sponsors here at UK Health Radio. Awesome. This is Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, and we're learning today about what you can do to help your breasts be healthier. We'll be right back. Lori Finlay, here at the National Healing Show for UK Health Radio, we did an entire show called What is Epigenetics, all right? But and you're talking about a lot of really important things, but I really want our audience to be able to understand you. So I'm going to ask you two questions. So before you zoom ahead, I wanted to know, what is epigenetics? Can you give an explanation of that for our audience? And then can you explain to them what is a thermogram? So like back up, let's help our audience catch up with you.
Okay, great.
So absolutely. And I'll listen to my whole show on what is epigenetics, but Lori Finlay, what is a simple explanation of what is epigenetics?
Epigenetics, right? So epi means on top of, right? Epi is on top of, yeah. And the epicardium is the layer on top of the heart muscle, right? So it's on top of the genetics. I use a simple example of, we've got wiring. If you think about a piano, there are strings to the piano, right? There are strings to the piano. It's kind of like the wiring, if you will, of our genes, right? It's the wiring. You don't know how that piano is going to express itself unless, right, there's an external expression. So is the piano going to express itself with Bach or Billy Joel, Beethoven or the Beatles, right? We don't know until there's an external influence called the pianist, right? So we have an external influence on our genes for good or bad. Are we going to have whole fruits and vegetables, raw food, organic food, do an infrared sauna, support our glutathione, support our lymph system, have plenty of good, clean water, meditate, do all of the exercise, all of these things that can support healthy genetic function? or just the opposite? Are we going to expose ourselves to toxins, toxic thought, toxic people, toxic air, toxic water, toxic food, etc.? So either way, it's going to impact the expression of our genes. So that's what epigenetics means. So the bottom line is, to me, it's very empowering. We have way more control than we ever have been taught, right? For years. Oh, well, my mother died of this, or my father died of that, or my grandmother had this, and my aunt had that. Now we have way more control because we understand epigenetics. Okay. So now your next question, a thermogram. So a lot of women know about a mammogram. A mammogram, squishes your breast tissue and radiates your breast tissue, and it searches for anatomy, a lump. A thermogram is a camera that's about 5 feet away from the breast tissue. You take off your top, you sit there for 5 to 10 minutes and let your torso get accustomed to the room temperature. And this camera will take a picture. Thermogram, like thermometer, measures heat. So it'll take a picture of your breast and what's normal for your breasts. And you can track it every 6 months and see if there's a change. So the first time I did my thermogram was right after my last mammogram. I did them together, so I had kind of a comparison. And then 6 months later, I did another thermogram. And I do one every 6 months to see if there's a change in the temperature. So they can pick up things 8 to 10 years earlier than you would find on a mammogram. So it's phenomenal. There are way better tests that are coming to the market. And right now, one of my most exciting tips is, the Dutch test that women can do, and they can check, or over in Europe, in your audience, they can go to their doctor and get what's called the 2:16 ratio. And that will measure their hormone metabolism. And that's really helpful to see. Are your estrogens being metabolized down the healthy 2-hydroxylation pathway or the toxic 16 or 4-hydroxylation pathways? And you can see that 20 years in advance. You can see this trajectory, like, it'll give you an idea of, maybe I do have some genetic hiccups. Maybe I've got some SNPs there. Maybe I could change my diet a bit to help that.
So the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio, we are on every major podcast platform all over the world. So you are speaking to a global audience. So, Lori Finlay, so we have all these medical tools, and yet the rates of breast cancer are still rising. Let's talk for our audience about what are some of the top things that women can do to reduce their risk of breast cancer.
Thank you. That's a great question. And we've talked a little bit about that already, right? Going green, simply going green. Like there's 4 things I focus on and go into more detail. You can see it on the PDF, and I go into way more detail in my webinar. But, going green, clean green food, clean green personal care products, clean, cleaning products. There's some phenomenal resources out there, the Environmental Working Group or skindeep.org. You can check every single product that's in your home and every product that you use to see what toxins are in it. And then it'll even give you resources and references for clean products. I mean, I've been introduced to some of my favorite personal care lines from skindeep.org, the ones I use every day because they're excellent. Another important thing to do would make sure that you optimize your progesterone. Because as we age, our estrogen drops, which is a problem, but our progesterone plummets almost 100%. And that balance of progesterone to estrogen is really important. And we need to keep our estrogen up as high as possible, to balance the estrogen and progesterone. And unfortunately, stress sucks the progesterone right out of us. And that's a major challenge for women. So I recommend, that women, some essential oils can help. Thyme oil, lavender oil, clary sage, those can help balance your hormones. Some progesterone cream, having flax seeds can help, right, with your progesterone. But there are some some progesterone serums that can help, or progesterone creams. The trick with the progesterone cream, if you add that, is if you're a cycling woman, to have it the last 2 to 3 weeks of your cycle, and to make sure that you rotate sites. And what I mean is that, you go from your forearm, rub it on your forearm, and then maybe underneath, your upper arm, and then switch sides. So the next day, rub it underneath the left side, and then underneath the left knee, and the inner thigh, and then the right inner thigh, and the right knee, and then come back to the right wrist. So you want to rotate your sites so that you absorb it optimally, but keeping your progesterone at a really good level is helpful, and making sure you have good leafy greens will support your progesterone as well.
Okay, now a couple things. I remember years ago being at a conference of naturopaths, and they were talking about the pros and cons of progesterone cream. One of the cons of progesterone cream is that it's so easy to misdiagnose, especially when you're having a cream. One day you have a little bit, another day you're slathering it on. And again, keep in mind that our listeners are all over the world, and they may not have access to progesterone. So what are some ways that we can raise our progesterone naturally without creams, without going to the doctor for a prescription?
Well, I going back to our diet, right? Healthy greens, healthy fruits and vegetables, organic will make a big difference. And one of the most important things, again, is to manage stress. If all you did would reduce your stress, that will dramatically support your progesterone, because the cortisol will take precedence over everything and will deplete your progesterone dramatically. So mindfulness, breathing exercises throughout the day, anything you can do to reduce your stress and optimize your sleep. Taking, believe it or not, I mean, your brain health is important. When you think about the HPA, hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenal, that whole axis, it's all about your brain health. So optimizing your brain function, staying away from sugars, and making sure you get plenty of healthy fats will support your hormones and your progesterone. Healthy fats are important. Around the world, there's a lot of people that have been given or prescribed statin drugs. First of all, I could spend a whole hour just on statin drugs, and because cholesterol is not the main problem with coronary disease, it's actually inflammation. And statin drugs will often reduce cholesterol too low, and cholesterol creates pregnenolone, and then pregnenolone converts into progesterone. So if we're lowering cholesterol too low with all these statin drugs, then we're going to have a huge problem trying to keep up with pregnenolone and progesterone. So again, it's a multifactorial issue, and we have control over all of those things. We get to choose every day how we're going to build our hormones and metabolize our hormones.
Now, Lori Finlay, how do hormonal imbalances increase the risk of breast cancer?
I'm glad you asked. There's a tremendous amount of research out there about xenoestrogens, or what they call estrogen dominance. And again, it's the toxic estrogens in balance. The toxic estrogens in balance with the progesterone. If it gets too high, that's going to increase your risk of breast cancer. It's been documented for years. And as important as the balance of the estrogen to the progesterone, it's also the hormone metabolism. Again, those pathways. There's the healthy 2-hydroxylation or 2-OH pathway, the unhealthy 16-hydroxylation or 16-OH, and then there's the 4-hydroxylation or 4-OH. And that 4-hydroxylation pathway has directly been linked to DNA damage. So we've got to make sure that we improve our liver function. So again, things that will decrease liver function is poor diet, not having good enough bowel function, and lots of alcohol, right? That daily glass of wine is going to inhibit your liver function. So whatever you can do to improve liver function, I mean, something simple as doing a castor oil pack over the liver every night when you go to sleep will help improve your hormone metabolism. That's something simple that we can do. I can do that. A bottle of castor oil you can buy anywhere. I get organic, but you can put that, you know, and I mean, you can even Google it and come up with your own towel instead of something fancy, but you can wear castor oil and you can do it for an hour or 8 hours. Even if did it in the morning for an hour, that's going to make a difference and improve your liver function. That alone will make a big difference.
So for our audience, will you share for us how you do a castor oil pack?
Sure. I ordered on Amazon here in the United States. I ordered this, you know, little pad with very, very long strings for people that have a larger abdominal girth than I have. So it wraps around my body twice. And I literally take a good tablespoon of the castor oil and pour it on this cloth. You know, on one side, it's kind of got a more of a plasticky kind of covering, right? So it doesn't seep through. The other side that I pour the oil on is very absorbent. And I'll just put that over my abdominal cavity, you know, over my liver, underneath my right breast, wrap it around and sleep with it for 8 hours and take it off in the morning. It improves bowel function and it definitely improves, you know, liver metabolism as well. It's really good for you.
So you don't use a heating pad while you're doing it?
I don't. No, I don't use a heating pad. I just put that on at nighttime. One of the reasons I don't want the heating pad is because I don't want those EMFs on my body all night either. Right now, if I used a hot water bottle, right, and put that on for an hour, I would be open to doing that. But I don't want the heating pad.
Great information. And with that, let's listen to another message from one of our commercial sponsors here at UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer. We're listening to Lori Finlay talk about breast health. Lori Finlay, as you know, one of the things that helps to improve our breast health is actually regular exercise. Can you explain for our audience, how does regular exercise improve our breast health?
Absolutely. It all comes back to hormone metabolism again. Exercise actually helps us metabolize the hormones. I mean, obviously, regular exercise, doing strength training burns fat, right? We want to burn the fat because the fat becomes a magnet for the toxic estrogens. And the toxic estrogens are in turn a magnet for fat. So again, it's a vicious cycle. So strength training and exercise can help build muscle, which will burn more fat. And then the aerobic exercise will also help metabolize those bad estrogens. So it's win-win all the way around. And, you know, then you have the whole endorphin benefit, right, of exercise. You've got the endorphin benefit. You're lowering your toxic neurotransmitters, the catecholamines, the epinephrine, norepinephrine, or cortisol when you're exercising. So it's a triple whammy benefit, right?
Yes. And I love everything you just shared. And when we move, you move the lymph. And there's a tremendous amount of lymph glands in your armpit area and around your breast. So correct. I know in my 30 years experience in natural healing, one of the things that I learned was how to move the lymphatic areas around the breast. And when we don't exercise, the lymph glands around your breast can get congested. And when the lymph glands around your breast get congested, you're at very high risk for things like breast cancer.
Right. Can I add a couple things that I do that make a big difference?
Please. Yes.
So one thing that I do, I mean, I have a little, you know, you can call them a mini trampoline, a rebounder or whatever. I have it here in my office and I'll pull it out next to my desk and I'll set a timer, right? Because a lot of us are sitting at a desk all day long and I'll set my timer for every 15 to 16 minutes and it'll go off. And for 1 minute, I'll get up and be on my trampoline for a minute, stimulate my brain, stimulate my lymph. And it's fun. And now I'm crisp and sharp to sit down and work again. So I can stimulate my lymph that way. And yes, you can look online and learn about dry brushing, but another thing that women can do is what's called fluffing, like fluff, like air fluff, right? Like fluff. But you literally bend forward, like, so you're at an angle at the waist, bend forward, and your breasts are hanging down, and you gently shake your breast tissue for a minute or so to stimulate and move your breast tissue. And that's very good. For years, it's like women have been given, these bras that, will literally harness us in, but the movement of our breast tissue is actually a good thing. So stimulating the lymph around the breast and stimulating the breast tissue with movement called fluffing is a great idea too.
Now, we've talked a lot about nutrition. How important is drinking clean water for keeping our breasts healthy?
Oh, very important, because unfortunately in our world today, we've got lots of toxic plastics and things that are in our water. I don't drink water from plastic bottles. I mean, I certainly help my clients understand, don't drink water if it's been in a plastic bottle in your car, or don't use plastics in your microwave. Now, I won't even be in the same room as a microwave, not to mention eat microwaved food. But goodness, get away from plastics, right? So when it comes to clean water, again, I would recommend that you use a stainless steel bottle, or a glass bottle, so you're not being exposed to plastics. So even if you didn't leave your bottle of water in the car, think about it. It's been shipped in some big massive truck in unbelievable hot temperatures. So those plastics have been leaching into that plastic bottle, into that water, from the plastic bottle. So I would say stay away from plastics. And then there's, drugs and all kinds of other chemicals that have been leached into our water supply and water system. There's heavy metals that are leached there that can all cause an issue. They all cause an issue with hormone metabolism. They, in essence, are more of these xeno or foreign estrogens, these hormone mimickers that we can find in water.
Now, you brought up an important comment about microwave ovens. And whenever I'm working with clients, I have a long handout that I give people about the problems with microwave ovens, but I'm going to summarize it briefly for our audience. You are alive and your cells are alive. All cells that are alive, they spin in a clockwise direction. And when you microwave food, any food, it reverses the spin and toxins drive deeper into the cells. I've had clients over the years, I've worked with many clients with cancer, more than I can count, unfortunately. And I've had clients with cancer who go buy organic, very expensive food, organic fruits and vegetables, and they come home and microwave it. I'm like, please.
Oh, do that.
You missed the point. Do not eat microwave food. Do not reheat in the microwave. Do not defrost in the microwave. I happen to own a microwave. I use it to heat up my neck warmer at night. So I heat up my neck warmer and put it around my neck when I read a book or watch a movie, and it's very comforting. Now, Lori Finlay, one of the things that we know is helpful is doing breast self-exams. How often should women do breast self-exams? And could you explain for us, how do we go about doing that?
Sure. It's important to do breast self-exams once a month. And again, I want to mention that the breast self-exam is looking for a lump. This is anatomy. This is a late screening. It's not early screening like you can find with a thermogram, or doing, measuring your hormone metabolism by urine or blood, right? So it is a later marker, but it still can be early detection of a lump. And you know your breast tissue better than anyone else. So, if you go in a clockwise position all around you, put your arm above your head, they say, do it standing, do it laying down, doing it look in the mirror, so that you can see things like nippling. And if one breast is larger, often breasts are larger than another, but you can see if there's dimpling, if there's issues, if there's drainage from the nipple. So you need to look and palpate all the way around. Make sure you palpate way up in the armpit, and do this on a monthly basis. In fact, I just posted on Instagram today, a picture, a meme that people can look at, right? Lori Finlay NP.coach. And you can go there and you can see that meme, and it'll give you a visual image of these are the things to pay attention to when you're doing breast exam. Can I go back one point that I wanted to mention as you were talking about microwaves? Because in our world, we're so bombarded with cell phones and 5G, right? It almost makes me cry when I see a woman stuff her iPhone or whatever phone, stuff her phone in her bra. There are clothing manufacturers out there that are now creating sportswear and sport bras that have pockets in them for your cell phone. That is like, oh my goodness, one of the worst things you can do. You just talked about reversing, right? The energy of your food and what's that doing on a cellular level. The same thing is happening when you put that phone close to your body. I won't wear my phone on my body unless it's in airplane mode. So that, I know that's inconvenient. I know that goes against the cultural trend, and everybody wants to stay connected, particularly women. We want to be connected at all times.
Yeah.
But wearing your phone in your bra is really an unhealthy thing to do.
Great information. So Lori Finlay, you bring up bras. Does the kind of bra we wear matter for our breast health?
Yes, it does. I would say absolutely do not wear a bra that's got an underwire, because and I've tracked these things, right? And I have I've tracked my HRV, my heart rate variability, when I've worn an underwire bra. I've worn an underwire bra, before I've gone for lymph massage, and when I haven't, and she's able to literally see the difference in my lymph flow. In fact, it's been fascinating for her when I go to my lymph massage therapist, for her to be able to see how my lymph has improved if I'm doing my mini trampoline, my little rebounder. It's like, oh, you've been sitting a lot, you haven't been doing your trampoline, or oh, you've been wearing, your sports bra, right? And have a lot more loose fabric. She can tell. So when we wear those underwires, it literally like stops the flow of our lymph and can cause more problems.
Now, Lori Finlay, there is a cream, and I wish there is actually a lymphatic cream for the breast that's made in Canada that people can use when they realize that they've got lumps. If women do a breast self-exam and they find lumps, are there any things they can do naturally to move the lymph and reduce the lumps naturally? Obviously, if you find a lump, you want to go to your medical professional and get it checked out. But what can we do naturally for lumps?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because several years ago, I had my own breast lumps. Like, I went through that scare. I have lost my best friend almost 8 years ago. My sister has had breast cancer and bilateral mastectomy. My cousin has had breast cancer. My aunt died of breast cancer. I just lost another friend this year with metastatic breast cancer. I mean, it's very close to home. And when I had my own breast scare, it was like, whoa. And I had studied a lot, and I knew, like, okay, wait, don't freak out. First, you want to like find out, is this really cancerous or is this benign? Right? So instead of getting a mammogram, so I was tracking things on a thermogram and could see that, okay, this thermogram is getting worse or getting hotter. So something's going on in my left breast. So instead of getting a mammogram, I went and had an MRI. Now, I'm still not thrilled with the magnetic resonance, that I had to have, or even the injection. There's new tools that are coming on the market next year. But with that said, I also did what was called the oncoblot test. And I would imagine now, like, there are some of these tests that are available around the world, but it was a simple test that measured a specific protein that is only associated with cancers. And it can help pinpoint exactly what kind of cancer. So I paid the extra money out of my pocket to get the oncoblot test because I didn't want a biopsy. Because in my world and in the providers that I train with in functional medicine, they're like, don't go in there and stab that lump in case it is cancerous, and then you're leaching cancer cells everywhere. Keep it encapsulated. So I didn't want to do that as the first approach. So I found out that it was benign, and it was like, well, I've got some work to do. I need to improve my lymph flow. I need to, improve my hormonal function. And I also did some things like, I did energy medicine. I did feng shui. I did, qigong, sorry.
Yes.
Feng shui is for the house. I did qigong.
Yes.
And they have an exercise in qigong that's called dry coughing. Completely leaning back like in an arch, right? Dry coughing, actually it's called dry crying. Like you lean back and you pretend that you're crying to help release the trapped energy around our heart chakra and our breast. Because when we are, whether it's as a young child or as a woman, like our emotions are here around our heart space, and we will trap them. We will not release them. So those hurt feelings and anger and rage can get trapped in that area. So dry crying was something that I did. And anyway, those are things that I've done, which brings me to something that I want to say about epigenetics. One more thing. Dr. Bruce Lipton, PhD, is considered the godfather of epigenetics around the world. And he wrote the book, The Biology of Belief. And I had the incredible honor of being in his presence for 90 minutes in August of 2019. And the presentation was finished. It was profound. The presentation was finished. All the cameras were off and the mics were off. And then he hopped back up on the stage and said, I have one more thing to say. And the place went silent, like pin drop. And out of his mouth, he said, quote, cancer is caused by the lack of forgiveness.
Amen. Amen.
And I was like, wow. And the whole audience was like, yeah, right. So, if you read the book called The Molecules of Emotion by Dr. Candace Pert, she was a brilliant biochemist and literally led the body mind medicine movement years and years ago. Brilliant, brilliant woman. And she also says, that our emotions will get trapped on a DNA level. So the two of them, right, these pioneers when it comes to epigenetics and body, heart, mind, body medicine, have clearly said we've got to handle our toxic emotions. Yeah. It's very important.
Whenever I start with a new client of any kind, I always start with forgiveness mantras.
Right.
And it tells me a lot. I've had just a few clients who go, I can't say that. I'm still mad. I'm like, okay.
Right.
But yes, I've written extensively about how lack of forgiveness makes you sick. And I agree with you. If you have cancer, go around forgiving everybody for everything. Of course, the Bible says there is no justified resentment. Lori Finlay, any final thoughts for our audience?
Well, I would say the number one thing I want women to remember, take home message is you have choice. Every single day you have choice. And it's like compound interest. Everybody's focused on the compound interest in their fiscal portfolio. How much are they growing their retirement? And I want women to focus on their physical portfolio, like focus on your health. Focus and realize that everything you do every day, emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, is going to either benefit your health and your breast health or not. And you have choice every single day. No more can you just say, oh, well, my mother and my aunt and my grandmother had breast cancer, right? It's like, no, it's only 5 to 10% of cancers and chronic disease are caused by genes alone. Because we understand epigenetics, the ball is in your court. You get to choose every single day. And simple things like supporting detoxification, supporting your progesterone, supporting, optimizing your nutrition and going green. Those 4 things are going to improve your hormones and your hormone metabolism.
You've been listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 bestselling author. You can find out more about our wonderful guest, Lori Finlay, at her website, lorifinlay.com. And remember, your breasts are an important organ, and you can take steps now, today, to prevent breast cancer and prevent yourself from ever suffering from cancer at all. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.